After God freed the Israelites from slavery in Egypt, they made their way to the borders of the Promised Land. But when they arrived, to everybody's surprise, they went, "We don't want it." To which God goes, "Okay, well, I guess I'll give it to your kids instead." And so for the next 40 years, the Israelites just wander around in the wilderness. During that time, a whole load of things happened to them. And as we look at them, I'm going to ask you whether you think that people in that story live, in which case I'd like you to put your thumb in the air, or die, in which case I'd like you to put your thumb pointing downwards. It's something the Romans used to do, don't we? Now, before we get going, though, I should mention something, and that is everybody dies. Just generally, it's just a statement of fact. It happens. We need to know that's the case. Also, in this particular story, we're going to be pretty sure that everybody dies because, God has said that he's going to give the land to their children, not to them. So by the time they get back to the Promised Land, they will all be dead. I just mentioned passing. Apart from Joshua and Caleb. You don't know who they are, but to be honest, there's only two of them, so it doesn't really matter. We'll just gloss over that. Right, so we know everyone's going to die, but they might not necessarily die immediately. So we're going to be voting, do we think they're going to survive this bit? Although we realise at some point they will keel over and stick their legs in the air. It's the way it goes. Best thing we can hope, they all die happily ever after. Right, on to the cheery story. So, the Israelites are on the border of the Promised Land, and they've run out of food. So, what do you reckon happens? Actually, they're fine. Yeah, I know. I was a bit surprised at that. But in fact, they all survive. Don't worry, there's plenty of time to go. There will be other ends as we go through the story. So they all survive. They all survive because God gives them food. Yeah. They wake up one morning, and all the way round the camp is this stuff that's appeared, just kind of like dew. It's called manna. And the reason they call it manna is when they say the word manna, it means, what is it? And that's what they said when they saw it. And then the Bible tells us this manna, this bread from heaven, well, it was kind of like coriander seeds. And you could eat it, and it tasted like wafers made with honey. So, the Israelites go and collect this stuff. And Moses says to them, don't collect too much. Make sure you only collect what you need for today. Don't keep anything till tomorrow. But as is the way of these things, people don't listen and they go and collect far too much, and tomorrow morning when they wake up, it's all got maggots in it. But they do eventually learn, and this is how it goes. Every day they wake up, and all the way around the camp there's this manna stuff that they can collect and eat, and they've got all the food they need. It goes on day after day until it comes to the sixth day. Now, the next day is the Sabbath. And according to God's rules, you're not allowed to cook on the Sabbath. You can't make fires on the Sabbath. You've only got to eat cold stuff. So the Israelites go to Moses and go, Moses, tomorrow's the Sabbath. It is okay for us to go and collect manna on the Sabbath, isn't it? No, goes Moses. Collecting food is work, and you're not allowed to work on the Sabbath. But what are we going to eat? Say the Israelites. It's easy, goes Moses. What you do is you just collect twice as much today. That way you'll have something to eat tomorrow. Hang on a second, go the Israelites. Have you forgotten that if we keep this stuff for more than one day, it gets maggots in it? Ah, good point, goes Moses. Don't worry, God will do a miracle. And he does. The next day, when they wake up, there's no manna anywhere to be seen because it's a Sabbath. But the stuff that they collected yesterday and kept is absolutely fine. No maggots in sight. So this goes on every day for 40 years. Every day they wake up and there's manna all around the camp and they've got the food to eat. Apart from the seventh day when there's no manna, but that's the only day when it doesn't go all mouldy. The Israelites have their food sorted. But since they are not going into the Promised Land, well, they don't really know where they're supposed to go. So God helps them out again. He gives them a pillar of fire and smoke. Smoke during the day, so they can see it, and fire at night, so they can see it. And wherever the pillar of fire and smoke goes, the Israelites go to. But sometimes the Israelites get a bit impatient with this whole pillar of fire and smoke thing. So, for instance, on one occasion, they have to make their camp where there's no wells, no rivers, no springs, there's no water anywhere. And they're getting a bit thirsty. The Israelites come over to Moses and go, "We're all going to die." Which, to be honest, is technically correct, but not necessarily at this precise moment. So they say, we're better off if we'd never left Egypt. Is the Lord with us or not? Moses says, stop complaining, you're putting God to the test. Then God tells Moses, take your staff and go to that rock over there. Strike the rock with your staff. And when Moses does, water gushes out of the rock. So everybody's got something to drink and nobody dies. Yet. Now, in fact, Moses actually had to do this more than once. There's another occasion, and he didn't do quite so well on the second time round. Second time round, God doesn't actually say hit the rock, he says speak to the rock, and Moses hits it anyhow, twice. Also, instead of saying, look what God's going to do for you, he does also go, look what me and Aaron are going to do for you. And doesn't kind of give God the glory that you're really supposed to. And, well, what do you reckon? Yeah, unfortunately God says you've got to die. So Moses isn't allowed into the promised land, and he'll die before we get there. But he's not dead yet, so we'll keep going with the story. Everything's fine. So, on another occasion, as they're making camp, a guy is found collecting wood on the Sabbath. Now, you're not allowed to do that because you can't make fires on the Sabbath. And so he's arrested. And they go and ask God, what should we do with this person? What do you reckon? Well, yeah, I'm afraid things didn't go too well for him, if I'm honest. Sorry. We knew where this was going. There's another time when a guy blasphemes. He curses using God's name. Once again, they arrest him. And God says, what do you reckon? Yeah, he says he's going to die. Okay, so it's not like God didn't tell us this was going to happen. He did lay out the rules. They also built a tabernacle. The place where they're going to put they put the Ark of the Covenant with the Ten Commandments in, and where they come to worship God and offer him sacrifices. What do you reckon? Yeah, it's great. It's fantastic. It's exactly what God wanted. Although I must confess that there was actually that little bit where two of Aaron's sons called Abidu and Nadab or something like that, they offer incense to God at a point when they're not supposed to. God didn't tell them to do that, and as a result, they die. Yeah, sorry about that. But there's more to come. So, there's also that time when Aaron and Miriam decide that they would make much better leaders than Moses, and that they should be the people in charge of the Israelites. What do you reckon? No, they were fine. Actually, yeah, no, it's no problem at all. I mean, okay, Miriam got leprosy, but apart from that, and also God healed her after a week because Moses asked him to. So pretty good result for now. There was another time when some other leaders, they rebelled against Moses. Their names were Korah, Dotham, and Abiram. Told you so. They also had a few other people with them as well, to be honest. Now, they tried burning incense before God. But God had said only Aaron was supposed to do that. Sorry, Aaron, yeah, I know, weird names. And, well, what do you reckon? Yeah, I'm afraid the ground ate them. These things happen. So, there was another time when the Israelites managed to place their camp on top of a load of snakes. That didn't go too well. And, did I say that? It didn't go too well until God told Moses to put a bronze snake on a pole, and anyone who looked at it, they would be healed. Result. But, I mean, apart from all that stuff, nothing very much happened during the wanderings. And when they finally got to the border of the Promised Land, 40 years later, Moses died. Well, we kind of knew where we were going at the start of this. So, what's the point of all these stories? Well, I guess lots of things. I mean, don't put God to the test like the Israelites did. Don't complain about God like the Israelites did. Don't blaspheme like, one of the Israelites did. Don't worship God in a way that he says you shouldn't. Don't make it up yourself. Do what he says. Give God one day in every 7. And also, don't build a camp on top of a snake's nest. But, perhaps the most important lesson from all this is what I said at the start. Do remember, everybody dies, even you. So please, make sure you get your eternity sorted. Make sure you're ready for when that happens. Believing in Jesus is the smartest decision you can ever make.